The human struggle. We all go through it in many different ways, and no two people are the same, but we all have one thing in common as humans. We all have had some sort of struggle at some point, or maybe we're even going through it right now. Some struggles can't compare to others, and we all begin life at different starting points. There is nobody that can highlight the beauty of the human struggle quite like Mark Laita, interviewing pimps, prostitutes, mental illness, addicts, war veterans, PTSD, homeless, gang members, preachers, preachers' daughters, murderers, and much, much more in the thousands of interviews that Mark has done. Some reach rock bottom after starting life extremely fortunate, such as one interview where the man grew up living across the street and being friends with the Kennedys. Then there is the other end of the spectrum, those who never had a chance from the start, whether they were abused at a young age, or had no guidance or the wrong guidance during their childhood, or they had no childhood at all and were basically given no other choice but to start living like an adult at a very young age. These interviews and stories of struggle are featured on Mark Laita's project Soft White Underbelly, in which the YouTube channel currently has 4.47 million subscribers. The interesting part about Soft White Underbelly isn't just the project and the interviews themselves, but what made Mark want to jump into this project, especially after an extremely successful career financially. At a young age, Mark was always interested in the homeless, and he started to photograph them. Not in a disrespectful way, not looking down upon them, just the curiosity of how they got there. And that can be a pretty complex answer, as Mark would later find out. He would continue to follow his passion for photography, which brought him into the world of marketing, where he would help wealthy companies such as Apple become even wealthier. He made more money than he would have ever hoped, and from the outside, he may have looked like he was living the dream, but on the inside, he sensed a lack of purpose. Mark decided to leave all the money and only pursue purpose. He bought a studio in Skid Row, famously known as the homeless hub of America, located in Los Angeles, California, and he started photographing the people of Skid Row. People would ask Mark why he doesn't interview these people because they probably have some amazing stories, but Mark enjoyed the photography and did not consider himself a videographer. Mark would get his hands on the Canon 5D, which had the ability to shoot video, and he gave it a try and interviewed a prostitute who was a heroin addict. After the interview, he couldn't believe how heavy her story was. Mark would give a few more interviews a try, and he realized that every single one of these stories are interesting, but all in different, unique ways. He would start posting these videos on YouTube, and he figured only a few people would watch, but the project started gaining traction, especially after posting the Whitakers, an inbred family from West Virginia. This interview was not easy for Mark to complete due to the local community looking out for the Whitakers and not wanting the chance of Mark to exploit them. This has been a topic of conversation with the Soft White Underbelly project. However, the project is spreading awareness to millions of people of what goes on in the world and how we can learn and hopefully become a better society in the future because of it. Although some of the videos may be hard to watch for some, it is real, and Mark allows them to talk with no judgment coming from him. He tries to come from a place of understanding and put himself in their shoes, especially because Mark has never tried drugs and he doesn't drink. It must be extremely mentally exhausting to sit through thousands of these painfully descriptive interviews, especially the kids that he has interviewed on Skid Row. He actually only ends up posting about 1 out of every 6 interviews that he records. Those around him say he doesn't ever stop working, 7 days a week, but he says it is because he loves what he does and he starts his day at 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning. He's not doing it for money. Most of his videos are actually demonetized on YouTube, but he continues to make videos because he feels that they have more meaning than money can bring. Although Mark has helped many people that he has interviewed in the past, he does not do these interviews to help these people, and some can't even be helped. This leaves Mark in a vulnerable place. He has given money countless times in which it was spent on drugs, so he has said that he doesn't have the solution to these problems, but he is putting them in the spotlight and also giving them a place to vent and share their stories. It would be impossible for Mark himself to help the thousands of people he has interviewed, but he does have a GoFundMe to help support the channel due to him receiving almost no YouTube monetization revenue. The project can also be found on softwhiteunderbelly.com, and these links will be down in the description. What Mark has created cannot be replicated, and he has to get creative for some of these interviews. A lot of these interviews require them to trust Mark as they become vulnerable on camera and sometimes tell stories that they have never told anyone before. He travels the world for interviews, and he has been to every single state in the United States. One of the most compelling things that he has said after all these interviews is that if he was given the choice of the interview or to take the portrait photograph, he would choose the portrait, showing his love for photography. Mark says that he is still just in the beginning of what he has in store for Soft White Underbelly, and he hasn't made his future plans with the project available to the public. He ends every video with one question: what's the most important lesson you have learned in your life?